Okay, good morning, everybody. Every yontif we say, "V'rei mamtanu mikol lashon," that HaKadosh Baruch Hu elevated us from all lashon, from all expression. And a number of years ago, someone shared with me something so profound. That as a Jewish person, as a Yid, we go through experiences that are "V'rei mamtanu mikol lashon." They're more elevated than any expression. You can't explain it as much as you try. For example, we were zeicha not that long ago to walk our first child down the chuppah. I can't describe that feeling. I can't write about it. And I think about Mitzvah one day when I walk my child who's put us on this journey down the chuppah, Be'ezer Hashem. I can't even begin to describe what I'm sure those sentiments and emotions will be. About 36 hours ago, I came to this Shabbaton. I've never been involved with Kesha Nafshi. I never even heard of it, actually. And it is indescribable what I've seen over the last 36 hours. It is so more elevated and so much more gehaibin and higher than any words can describe, to see the incredible commitment and dedication of parents to their children, people opening up to complete strangers because maybe they can nash a nugget of inspiration, of chizuk, of something they could take home to their house, of the unbelievable dedication of Mesiras Nefesh from Gedalia and every other person that's involved here. It's V'rei mamtanu mikol lashon. I can't describe it. And I know when I come back to Lakewood, people are going to say, "Where were you for Shabbos?" And I'll say Kesher Nafshi, and they'll say, "What is that?" I'll be like, I can't describe it. I'm sorry. I'll really try. That's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about something that I am not an expert about and that I struggle with like everybody else. I'm not a therapist. I was a Rav for 20 years. Now I'm a Pashat Yid. I'm just a mechanech and a marbitz Torah. But I will say that this is something which is first and foremost in my mind and my wife's mind all the time. And that is building resilient kids. And especially, let's call a spade, we're all in the same room here. Definitely the thing that we're worried about the most, besides after our child that's struggling, or maybe equally, is the rest of the children in our family. I was speaking to Rebbe Landau, and that's not my wife. She's the wife of Rabbi Landau from Voretsky. By the way, Friday night there were a lot of people at the session because they thought Rabbi Landau from Voretsky was speaking. So I was zeicha to get to. I'm going to call him after Shabbos and say, "Rabbi Landau, I just want to give you Yesher Koach." So I spoke to his wife last week, and she runs a support group. By the way, if anyone wants to know, she runs a support group for mothers of struggling children. She's a Tursky, so she's got a lot going on for her. And she said to me that the topic that whenever she asks the women, what should we bring a speaker about? And about, everyone unanimously says the same thing. The rest of the kids. The rest of the kids. So I'd like to take mamish a few minutes to talk about building resilience in children. Just to demonstrate how inept I am at this. So my wife and myself, we ran a kiruv community for 2 decades. And there was a family in our community that had 3 children that were beyond rambunctious. V'rei mamtanu mikol lashon. There's no way to describe what their children were like. And they were secular. And every time that they would come to my chaver, we had a fellow who worked together with me in Kiev, every time that they would come to his house, they would see how these children sit through the whole Suda. They share Divrei Torah, they sing Zmiris, they're respectful, they bench together. And they're like, this is crazy. There are people in the world who have children that are misudar. They have children that are functional, respectful. If this is what Yiddishkeit could bring, we want to know more about it. And eventually they became frum. And they're tremendous, beautiful B'nai Torah family today. But what happened was that their children still were the same rambunctious, V'rei mamtanu mikol lashon children. And they felt like they did something wrong. And then they came to us for a Shabbos meal. And they realized you could be frum and still have kids that are off the charts. So I'm not an expert. But I want to share just a few nuggets of what the research shows about resilient children, and we know the research just supports what Klal Yisrael and the Torah have shown us for thousands of years. And just to segue in or tiptoe into what I want to talk about, less than a year ago, I'm going to say in the last 5 years, I got a phone call from a premier Rebbitzin. If I said her name, I think almost everyone here would know who this Rebbitzin is. And she said, "I'm arranging a getaway for post-high school girls. And I'd like you to come and speak." I said, "I'm flattered. Could talk to my agent." I didn't say that. I said, "What do you want me to talk about?" She said, "I want you to talk about one word." Hashem? No. Torah? No. Resilience. I want you to talk about resilience. She said, I interact with hundreds, maybe thousands of post-high school girls. Post-high school girls. And as long as the narrative follows the way they crafted their life, they're okay. You see, what's going to happen is they're going to go to high school. They're going to get into high school. They're going to go to high school. They're going to get into their seminary of choice. They're going to come back and take courses at TTI and PQR and all those different things. They're going to get a shidduch, because of course, why not? They're going to get married, have great shalom bayis, have wonderful children, and everything's going to be roses. It's going to be a bowl of peaches. And then all of a sudden, something doesn't fit the narrative. They don't get into the seminary. And by the way, rejection is so painful. They get into the seminary, but they can't keep up. They come back and they can't find a job. No shidduchim are being read. Or the shidduchim are being read, but they're not the right thing. Or everything goes well and they get married and all of a sudden, what do you mean? I thought I was going to marry Prince Charming and life would be ever. We'd live happily ever after. And they're struggling in shalom bayis. Or then the Rabbi throws a curveball and they have a child with all kinds of needs that they never expected. And they literally, said this top Rebbitzin, they crumble. They implode. They have no inner strength and no spiritual muscle. Please, I beg you, she said, if you could say anything about resilience, something that will mechazik them, that will build them up, please do that. Now, I didn't know, I'm not an expert on resilience. I speak a lot and try to be mechazik people and share what's meaningful to me, but I didn't know anything about resilience. And I'll tell you what I talked about soon. I just need to tell you what happened after I spoke. I spoke for an hour. I never speak for an hour. No one in today's dark could listen to anything for an hour. Our kids could, music. That's it. By the way, the average American teenager listens to 8 hours of music a day. Not average from kid. Average secular American teen, 8 hours of music. Rabbeinu Shalom. That takes your brain and turns it into hash browns. Anyways, I spoke for an hour because she asked me, please speak for an hour. They're a captive audience. They're at a retreat. They're not going anywhere. And I spoke, and the Olam listened for an hour, which was amazing. Then she says, can you take questions and answers? I'm like, no more koiches. We did questions and answers for almost an hour, and then I said, I have to leave. And then as I walked out, there was a line of girls waiting to speak to me. I'm not saying this chas v'shalom to toot my own horn or to flex, as my students would say. I'm just saying this to show how people crave resilience. And then a young lady approached me on the way out. This is where I'm going with this. And she said to me, can I talk to you privately for 2 minutes? I said, I don't have an office here and I don't talk to people privately. But if you'd like, we could go into a corner in the lobby and I'll tell the rest of the girls, please stay back. How can I help you? Now, just for brevity's sake, I want to describe to you what the girl looked like. Okay? I wasn't me'ayin. But she was Sanua, Rebbitzin, Adel Knadel. Mamish. That's who she was. And she says to me, and she exhales, and she looks at me and she says to me, I've never told this to anyone. I'm starting Shidduchim in a few months. My father and mother are chashuva people, special ma'abitzei Torah. I'm going to be read the best brachim and brisk, because I'm a best girl. She said, I want you to know something. It's all a show. I am a hollow shell. An Adel Kinadel hollow shell. There's no pneumius whatsoever. I have no relationship with the Rabbeinu Shalom. Torah and mitzvahs are not meaningful to me. I'm a straight A student. I crushed all those Ramban reports. I could read a Pachad Yitzchak, but there's zero inside of me. And I'm going to go out with some guy, and I'm going to marry him because that's what everyone says I should do. And I'm marrying a fellow, and it's a sham and a lie. What should I do? And I realized the Rebbitzin said, speak about resilience. She didn't need a speech about resilience. She needed to fill the shell, and it was hollow and empty. And as parents, that's our chayv kadosh. We need to fill a pneumius in our children. And I want to share 4 things that the research shows. How do we fill our pneumius? How do we fill the inner part of our child so the shell, the Adel Kinadel on the external, has an Adel Kinadel inside? How do we do that? I'm going to share just the simple research that's out there and show you how profound and beautiful it is, because it's literally a symmetrical walk with Hashkafa for so many years and so many generations. The first thing that the research shows, What I'm quoting now is, you can go out there, it's all available. I happen to be quoting from Harvard, but that's okay. By the way, Harvard is like, how do you describe Harvard to people who've never heard of Harvard? It's like Brisk in the Goyish world. That's how I describe, by the way, to all the secular Jews. They're like, where'd you go to yeshiva? I said, I went to the Harvard of yeshivas. Really, Rabbi? Huh? You can't get into Harvard either. The tuition's different. The first and foremost recipe nikuda for raising resilient children, the research shows, is a healthy relationship with one adult. One adult. That adult could be a parent, hopefully. Both parents, matayvu manoim, a Rebbe, a grandparent, even an older sibling. One of the ways, the first and foremost way, is to work on making sure that our child has a healthy, open, communicative relationship with an adult. If you as a parent can't be that person, Rahman al-Islam, there are people like that, find somebody else. Now, Rabbi, so we all know this. It's so easy to say our kids need to have healthy adult relationships. But a healthy adult relationship is very hard to form with a child. It's a lot of love. It's a lot of listening. It's a lot of time. It's energy. It's effort. I want to say something. If you don't prepare for your Shabbos Suda, I don't mean preparing the food. The Rebbitzins and the ladies do an amazing job with that. But if we don't prepare for our Shabbos Suda, then we missed out on recipe number one. Because so much happens at the Shabbos Suda. By the way, your children know if you put an effort into preparing something to say at your Shabbos Suda. They know. They're so good at telling. They know if during Kabbalah Shabbos you were flipping through the art scroll handout and Rabbi Hissaker, who's here with us this Shabbos, he put together a cute story and you read it because your kid read it also during Kabbalah Shabbos. Why shouldn't he? You were reading during Kabbalah Shabbos. Why shouldn't he? That's a little tiny nugget of something we could do to build that relationship. Quality time, everyone talks about time bombs, all these different things. But quality relationship is not something crazy. It's trying to take each of our children, and our lives are so busy and we're pulled in so many different directions, and create a safe, exclusive space just for that child. I'm also a Rebbe, but I'm totally fine when a kid doesn't come to yeshiva one day because his parent decided to take the morning off with the child, took them out for breakfast, went for a walk with them, played a game with them, whatever they did. This is building resilience. The problem is we are pulled in so many different directions. Financially, we're trying to support our mishpachas. We're trying to fuel our own ruchnius, work on our shalom bayis, be involved in simchas, kanai nahara. And if you're anything like me, every single day in our mailbox, there are multiple simcha invitations, and we want to go to every single one of them. But that means we're not home every single night of the week and the year. Right now, I'm in a very difficult situation where, Baruch Hashem, I'm getting a lot of speaking opportunities, but I can't go away for Shabbos all the time. Shabbos is the most important day of the whole week. So we need to make a plan with our spouse or ourselves of how we can have a real goal to attaining a good adult relationship with our child. They crave it so badly. And sadly, everyone said this 1,000 times over Shabbos, when they don't have it with us or a functional, healthy person, they'll find it with somebody else. And that could be so counterproductive. So we mamish need to carve out time. I don't know when you do this or we do this, where we turn off our phone. By the way, don't craft a plan on your phone. I'm sure there's an app for Building Resilient Children app. Check. Child has a good adult relationship. Build time to think about it, to reflect about it. What am I doing to invest in each of my children? Kanai Nahar, the Rebbe Shalom benched us with 9 children. None of my children are even a drop the same. Each one of them has their own personality. Each one has their own intellectual capability. Each one has their own emotional vulnerabilities. And you mamish have to take time to do cheshbon hanefesh. They're so important. I had a conversation with someone that was so heartbreaking. There's a very affluent fellow, and he never stops working. And I said to him, why do you work so hard? He says, I'm doing it for my children. I said, how often do you spend time with your children? A rabbi got a phone call. He couldn't answer that question. He's doing it for his children? What do you mean? You're ignoring your children in the process. You're not building any resilience whatsoever. We need to take time to craft a plan with every child. And think about it, you're a parent of multiple, you have many children. You know how much time and effort that takes? Let's call a spade a spade. It's by far the most challenging task we ever got in our lives, which is raising our children resilient. and making them healthy. I mean, the Torah says it. It's our greatest responsibility. Ramatis Yo Salman told me one time, I went to speak to him about expanding our mishpacha. I'll be honest. Like Kanan and her, we had a whole house full of kids. And myself and my wife were having a discussion, do we expand the mishpacha? Sometimes I think when people tell my wife I may have Esrim, she thinks children. So, Ramatis Yo Salman shared with me, she's not here, right? Baruch Hashem. So anyways, Ramatis Yo Salman shared with me, and he said, if we would know on a spiritual level, Api Ruchni, what the incredible zechus of bringing a neshama into this world is, we would just want to fill our houses with children and children and children. But at the same time, we also have to realize what it takes to nurture that neshama. And we have to be honest with ourselves. So Baruch Hashem, wherever you are right now, and whatever your plans are, you need to have a plan. That's point number one. And point number two is something called self-efficacy. If anyone here is a therapist or learned about this is a big word, self-efficacy. It's fine, you don't have to know what the word efficacy means. I'll tell you in yeshivish terms what efficacy means. But it means giving your child opportunities to build inner muscle. Children all the time struggle. And all the time, they have nisyonis. Even a small child, we think about back to when our kid was 2 or 3 years old and they had a bag of chips, a snack bag. Whoever invented that, by the way, should be shot. It's all my kids ever want is snack bags. It's crazy. What do you want for breakfast this morning? Oh, I'll have barbecue potato chips. It's a vegetable. My son, I'm being honest, I have one kid who's unbelievably creative, and so, anyways, this week I come, it's like 10 o'clock at night and he's 8, he's still up. He's eating supper, because he didn't eat supper before. He's having a salad. Can I tell you what was in the salad? Potato chips, corn chips, and pretzels. He says, Tati, there's 2 vegetables and 1 starch. Self-efficacy means creating opportunities for our child to win. Remember when our child was like 2 or 3 years old and they shared that snack bag with another kid in the family? What did we do? We made a kiddush. Like the whole family was like, hooray, we're so proud of you. Because you chopped that for the first time maybe in that kid's life, he realized I could eat the rest myself or I could give it to somebody else. And giving it to somebody else, maybe that's a good thing. And he made a conscious decision. And by the way, when you applaud it, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I want to share a beautiful personal moment of self-efficacy. This is one of my proudest moments as a parent. There's many moments I'm not proud of. It's so much easier to talk about the proud moments. We went to Bar Park for Purim. For those of you that were in Bar Park on Purim, it's so beautiful, it's so amazing. We had our own Kehila's Purim Suda. Then my wife drove me, Baruch Hashem, I didn't drive anyone, to the Purim Suda. And we came to Purim as the sun was setting. Matzah Purim. My shvager calls that the time when you coast. I don't know what that means, but you coast. And it was beautiful. And we still got some of the simcha, and we still got some of the energy, and we still got the opportunity for the many knocks at the doors for Matanis Leviyonim and everything else in between. 10 o'clock at night, I had sobered up. I get drunk on Purim, I'm sorry. I do. Whatever. I had sobered up. And we're putting away tables and chairs and stuff like that. Knock at the door. And there's a man standing there, and he's clearly a real nebuch. I'll be honest, a nebuch. And he says tzedakah, and I reach into my pocket. Now, before Purim, I went to the bank, and I got a roll of ones and some other bills, because I knew a whole Purim, people come over, you want to give them out. I had no money left. I didn't have any money, and he didn't have, this is before the credit card machines, they only take 3.5%, before that. My son is there, he must have been 4, maybe 5. And he looks at me and he says, Tati, you don't have any money? I said, I don't have any money. He says, so what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. He reaches into his pocket. Sorry if I get choked up. And he takes out his wallet. I didn't know he had his wallet on. Ladies and gentlemen, my 4-year-old or 5-year-old had $5. That was all he ever had in his life. He got $4 for his 4th birthday and $1 of Purim gelt. Where I'm from, they don't give Purim gelt. And he had $5. And he says to me, Tati, do you think he really needs it? I said, he really needs it. See, look at him. And he reaches into his pocket and he takes out all $5. And he gives it to the man. No, don't clap for okay. And I remember just picking my son up and smothering him with kisses and hugs and telling him that it was like perhaps my proudest moment as a father. And he's like number 6. And Rabbi said, ladies and gentlemen, my son just turned 15, and he still talks about that moment. Because that was a moment of self-efficacy, a moment of greatness, Zion. And he crushed it. And I feel in Shemaim that mutzah Purim, at that moment, it was such an Eis Ratzon. When a Yiddish person did what Hashem does, and that's just give, for no other reason. And we need to give our children opportunities. A lot of parents, I think, would have said, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. He just collected $10,000 today. It's okay. No, let your child figure it out. Help them identify. Help them identify the moment, the Nakudas HaBechira. And then congratulate them like you never did before when they're successful. And by the way, if you're a smart parent and you're a smart human being, you can even craft the opportunities for children to prove themselves. Give them a challenge. There's nothing more rewarding in the world than the feeling of being successful. There's a lot of artificial knockoffs for that. But real success and work through success, that's amazing. So number 1, right, we said was a healthy, nurturing adult relationship. And number 2 is giving our children opportunities to decide and to shine. And again, these all take chachma. But if we don't think about them, we'll never ever get there. Maybe if we're lucky, our child will make a right decision, and then we'll be able to congratulate them if we realize. If we realize. And by the way, success doesn't mean the way the world defines success. Right? What's success scholastically? You got an A. As a Rebbe, this tore me apart. I'm teaching for 20 years, high school. And this tears me apart all the time, where I have a boy in the class who gets 83 on a test, and he studied for 3 days for that Gemara test. And I have a kid in the class who gets 100 that didn't even study, he doesn't even listen. And this kid gets an A, and he gets a B. It's great because I'm not teaching in the school anymore, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I stopped grading tests. The kids would be like, Rebbe, when are we going to get the test back? And I'll be like, when you're a senior. Citizen! That's when you're going to get it back. Because it's not about, to me, it's if you're functioning in this class and you're doing well and you're putting in the effort and you're feeling the success, oh, that's who I want. And I want every single kid in the class to taste that success. So I'll ask a simple softball question and the kid will give a response and we'll put him up on a pedestal. Did everyone hear what he just said? Yeah, 1 + 1 is 2. It doesn't make a difference. But that's his definition of success. And you know what? Next time when I ask a question, slowly the hand will go up because he was successful. That's how you build self-efficacy. The opportunity to put yourself out and to be successful. We need to craft that narrative. We need to follow it. That's number 2. I want to skip to number 4, and if we have time, we'll come back to number 3, because number 4 was so inspiring. The Apikorsim, or the Kaifrim, who are part of this initiative at Harvard, and they aren't all, that speaks about building emotional intelligence in our children. Put this at the end. But listen, this is mind-boggling. You know what the 4th Nakuda for building resilience in your children is? It's faith, hope, and traditions. Is that not crazy? In a world where religion is shunned and everything that's holy is profane, they couldn't control themselves from putting number 4, obviously. The importance of resilience being faith, being hope, and traditions. And this is really what I want to talk about. It's about creating a real panemius for our children. Because I think that there's so many people that observe Yiddishkeit, but much fewer people live Yiddishkeit. There's so many people that go through the routine. They daven, they shackle, they keep Torah mitzvahs, they buy a beautiful lulav and esrog. But how many people have a panemius in each of those mitzvahs? And no one's to blame, but at least myself, I look back to my career, I learned in Briskin, I learned Panovich, and a bunch of these yeshivas, and we always focused on the what? Huh? Gemara. Gemara's what? It's what? And I'm telling you, I could take apart Hiddur mitzvah, if it's a chelik of the Maisa mitzvah, if it's a standalone, I could tell you the Brisker Rav and the Nafkaminas and all those different things, but I'm going to tell you the truth, I never chapped what Hiddur mitzvah is. I'm not talking about what it is, but what it is. Why am I spending on this? when anyways I have a budget that's so limited because can I now have to pay tuition for 9 children? Oh, and therapy bills, whatever. That's nothing. Actually, it's more. And I'll say what I said on Friday night because I believe in this so strongly. They just raised $25 million, trying to raise $25 million to give Moras raises, and they should because they deserve it. We need to raise $25 million to create a fund for us parents so we could pay our therapists and go on vacations and give our children what they need. So if anyone here wants to give $25 million right now, stand up. You were here when it happened. Let's keep dreaming. Let's build some resilience. But I think this is so important. We need to be proactive when it comes to giving our children Yiddishkeit. I just got a text message. This morning we had a little get-together upstairs for some of the Rabbanim and therapists. I got a text message from someone in our community. And he says, I know I should have come to the Shabbaton. It wasn't the right week. Okay? I respect that. Please, can you make some time to talk to my 2 sons? He has 2 children that are struggling. They have emunah questions. Now, we all know often that that's just the result of all the other emotional stuff that's going on. It comes afterwards. But do our children have a forum where they're comfortable asking? Someone told me this Shabbos, I was crying away inside. On the outside, I was empathizing, but I was mamish crying inside. Their son got suspended from his Masifta high school because he asked his Rebbe a very strong hashkafa question. And the Rebbe said, to his credit, can we talk about it after class? And he said, why? Why? Why can't we talk about it now? And the Rebbe said to him, I told you, I don't want to talk about it now. And he continued to act up, so they suspended him. Rabbi Shalom, this was a neshama crying for meaning. He just wanted to know. And they shut him down, and they suspended him. Then you wonder why that night he smoked up? Because he didn't get a high from where he should get the high from. Imam just tore me apart. Someone else shared with me this Shabbos that their son finally made it to shul. Mazel tov. We should make Shechianu with Shemo Malchus. And this kid has a beautiful voice. And the Gabbai, who should be blessed for many years, asked him to daven for the Amud. Tell me how many shuls in Klal Yisrael that would happen in. But he wasn't wearing a hat. So the Rav came over to him and said, you have to put a talus over your head. Which was really hard because there was a lot of things between his head and the talus. A huge mop. You know, that's like a new fad with a lot of the kids. I always feel like we should put a handle on top and just go. And he said, no, I'm not comfortable. And then the Rav came over and did it again, 4 times. And then he just said, I don't want to do this. And we lost an opportunity for a kid to shine. You know how good it feels to be a shliach tzibur, especially if you have a good voice? You know what resilience that builds? When you finally come to shul and they recognize you? It's so special. And what happens? He gets crushed. The word resilience totally is deleted from this kid's world. But as parents, at least our home hopefully is a safe place. And hopefully our home is a safe place in Yiddishkeit. I'm not talking about for the struggling child. That's a totally different discussion. For the rest of our children. Do we really feel Ashreinu Matev Chalkeinu? How awesome it is to be a Yid? Let's ask ourselves this question. When we look in the mirror, are we like, wow, I'm so happy that this is who I am? Because if that's how we feel, then our children will feel it. I was sitting by a chasana a week and a half ago, and Hashem put a guy next to me who is a Rosh Mesifta and a very chashuv Mesifta. And we got into the most bizarre conversation. By the way, I shared with him the story about this girl who was hollow bifanim. I wanted to see what would do. I was instigating. And he says, you think that's bad? I said, yeah. I'm going to tell you what bad is. So what? He says, my daughter came home from a Shabbaton. I'm not saying this, I'm not being chayzik here. I'm telling you the story. My daughter came home from a Shabbaton. And the speaker said that he spoke at a different Shabbaton. And he asked the girls if they had the opportunity to be born a guy, how many of them would want to be born a guy? 70% said they'd rather be a guy. And I was scared to ask my daughter, how about your son, your Beis Yaakov? That's what he said. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. Forget about resilience in life. If the Goyim understand that what gives resilience to our children is faith, hope, and traditions, we need to build such a beautiful narrative of Yiddishkeit. Our children need to see that we love Shabbos, that we value, it's so precious to us that we learn every day. Our children know that we take time to learn.
We don't celebrate average Yidden.
Correct, 100%. 100%. It's so interesting. I had a conversation with someone a bunch of years ago, and he told me he hates Gedolim biographies. And this is an Adam Chashuv Ad Ma'od, the kind of person that one day they'll write a biography about him. I said, why? He said, because a child reads that, and they're like, I can never be a Gadol. It is so beyond me. They should have books about regular people with regular struggles. There is a genre of those books, throw them out. But there is about regular people with regular struggles who are matzliach and who are successful. And like you're saying, a kid has a good davening, they should feel good about it. You have a good davening, tell your child, I felt Hashem in my life today. You hear a good Dvar Torah, it should suffuse you with simcha. Share it. Come home, and the kid sees you're happy. Why? I had such an amazing Seder with my chavrusa today. And then when we take Yiddishkeit and we practice Yiddishkeit and we cherish it in times of challenge, that's even more amazing to our children. When our children know that we have a crazy schedule and we come home and we have no kayach and we still open up a sefer and learn, you know what that does to them? I have a family member who shall remain unnamed, who committed when he got married. He was a boy who struggled. He could have been part of this initiative, or his parents could have. And he committed to learning a half hour every single day. Rav Chaim Stein was a Taz Rosh Yeshiva, was very big into this, and he wouldn't be Masad Kedushin unless you committed to learning a half hour a day. I'm telling you, this guy is a very busy businessman, and sometimes his day finishes at 1 o'clock in the morning, or he's away at a simcha, and everyone else is sitting and schmoozing, and this guy's at his sefer. It's no wonder that his Mesifta Bachar today is not Stam a learner. He sees Mesiras Nefesh for Limud HaTorah. But the Mesiras Nefesh doesn't have to just be in terms of learning or davening. It's just a perspective. A Yontif comes. There should be excitement in the home, not stress. I know easier said than done. Forget about Pesach. We'll talk about everything else. Okay? Come on, let's call a spade a spade. I look back in the last 12 months. I think the highest moment in my entire family was the Seder. It was the Seder. Can I tell you something beautiful, which is not my own, but I started doing it about a decade ago, and it's transformative. My Seder is a totally different Seder. You know, I don't, now my kids don't let me do it, but when they were younger, I did this practically. Anyone know what a huddle is? Before you have a football game, the team gets around, everyone puts their arms around one another. Yeah, and then they go, rah. I didn't do the rah part, it's not me. But I went into a huddle with my children, and I said to them, for 3,330 some years, our family has not missed a Seder. And we have a family tree up to David HaMelech, so I know we're okay. Why? Because you see, the person that ran the Seder made sure that the children understood how important the Seder is. And one day, Amit Hashem, Achamei V'Esrim, not kids, but ears, you're going to lead a Seder. And tonight you really have to listen because you're such a strong link. So tonight's such an important night. Ask, answer, discuss. It's your night. And it's the night for the opportunity for me to share with you. Let's make this the most amazing night of the year. And you know what? Children understand. Okay, if you ask a good question to my family, I have a box of 500 spoons, the plastic spoons, and you get a spoon. By the way, my kids want 4 for Manishtana alone. And they could cash those in on Chol Moed Pesach for different things. You used to be able to cash it in. This is hard for me to say for Toys R Us. Now it's Amazon, or whatever, all the other types of things around. But they have every one of those spoons has a cash value. You cannot imagine the brilliant questions that my kids ask, and the totally crazy ones. Tati, how come you put Tati Kaiman in the left side of your kittel and not in the right side of your kittel? Because Shemayak the Kanel Vesha. No, there's no reason, because I'm more comfortable. I don't know. Put it by my heart. But we need to lay up, evenings like the Seder are what carry our children. And they know how we worked so hard. My wife worked so hard for Pesach, but when it comes and we sit around and the table is beautiful, I know this sounds like a magical, crazy world, but we were able to craft that one night a year. The other 353 days of the year is total chaos. But a kid remembers that, and they remember it l'netzach netzachim, and especially the struggling kid, by the way. They go back to that night. My son, who was struggling all the years, the Seder to him was a climax or a high point. And another family member of mine that was at risk before it was popular, the Seder is his favorite night of the year. He sings louder and stronger than everybody else, and he's an adult, and it's weird. For some reason, the Seder creates incredible power to him. And particularly when your Seder is multi-generational. That's not part of this research, but I want you to know something. The children that have a strong connection to where they come from are incredibly resilient. It's one of the most brilliant and beautiful concepts that's been discovered, but we know this. When your child knows where you come from, and where you come from could be a parent, a grandparent, it could be Moshe Rabbeinu, it doesn't make a difference. That's very powerful. So I don't think I said one chiddush since I started speaking. We all know every single thing that I said. We need to take time out of our crazy schedules, and we need to give our children a healthy adult relationship. And sometimes in life we have to divide and conquer. You'll take Tzvi, I'll take Yehuda. And we'll both try to take so-and-so. Maybe. We need to craft those real relationships. We know in our hearts that that's the most powerful and precious thing that we have. The question is just what we're going to do with it. And you know what? It's the saddest thing when we look in the rearview mirror of the last 12 months or 2 or 3 years of all the missed opportunities. This is so precious and so important to us, and yet we don't do it. We need to be mechazek that. And we also need to give our children we can't spoon feed them life. Let them fail. That's part of efficacy. Let them be matzliach and celebrate it. Hold their hand when they fail. Cry with them, empathize. That also builds inner muscle. Life is not about successes. The way you ruin your child is to constantly be there, constantly help your child just be successful, be successful, be successful. Let them fall. Like someone said yesterday, Sheva Yipal Rebbe Young, Sheva Yipal Tzaddik V'Kam is the Tzaddik. He's the Tzaddik when he's Neifel, and he's the Tzaddik when he's come. And then we also have to focus so hard on building a beautiful Yiddishkeit. I'll say something that's tragic on one hand and beautiful on the other hand. I was going through a tremendous void in my Harbatza Satire when I pivoted. About 3 months ago, we moved to Lakewood. And I was a Rebbe for 20 years in high school and a Rebbe of a community. We walked away from everything because it wasn't working out for our little kids. That's how life is. You're only as happy as your most unhappy child. We got our Das Torah, we made our decisions, and we embraced it. But I'm going to be honest with you. I teach on Torah anytime, and I speak and I lecture, but that doesn't give me the chiyus of teaching a classroom. For those of you that are teachers, there is nothing more amazing than a successful lesson. And there is nothing more hurtful than when it doesn't succeed. You need to have a lot of successful ones, and then you could have a few bad days. So I was really hurting. And I decided I'm going to commit suicide. It's a scary word. I don't mean that way. I'm going to take a 12th grade job in the afternoons in a Masifta in Lakewood. Okay? Yeah, I shouldn't use the word suicide. I'm going to do something scary. And I took a job. It's in English, teaching English. Now, I told them I don't know how to teach English. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know English. Can't even teach history. I'm going to teach Hashkafa. You can write on the transcript whatever you want. Jewish philosophy, Jewish thought, it doesn't make a difference. The psychology of spirituality, I don't care what you write. It doesn't make a difference to me because it says they do get diplomas. But I teach Hashkafa. And I come into the classroom each time that I speak. And by the way, I love these kids. I love everyone, Avas Nefesh. I have 27 tremendously active, energetic kids. I come into the classroom, which is a little bit smaller than this, my first time, because I'm the new teacher, so they got to give me a run for my money, and there's party lights in the entire classroom, and the lights are off. And there's a kid on a guitar and a kid on the piano, and they're having a nice little kumsitz. Let's see what the Rebbe's going to do. So I'm not the kind of guy that say, hey, give me the guitar, let's do this. It's not me. I just stood in front of the room and I watched until it became so awkward and uncomfortable. And everyone stopped talking, and someone turned off the light, those strange lights, and someone turned on the regular lights, and one kid just kept on talking. Another kid turns to mid-system. I'm not going to use the words. Let's see if this guy can last more than two minutes. And then it was quiet. I don't know how many minutes later. Probably not so long, it just felt long. And I just began, and I said, David Cohn was 37 years old. He lived on the Upper West Side with his wife, Zahava, They had a beautiful family, picture-perfect family. And he sat down one night to talk to his wife about bar mitzvah plans for their oldest son, Shlomo. And I finished that story about a half hour later. And I drove home the message. And 40 minutes later, the class, of quiet class, by the way, came over and each kid introduced himself and said, Shalom Aleichem, that was really interesting. And thus began one of the most interesting journeys I've ever had. Because I come to the class twice a week for 45 minutes. And I just talk about the things that matter. Like why we daven. And what does it mean to have a relationship with Hashem? And I shared with them one of the most amazing things which none of the kids in the class ever heard. Because you see, to most kids, there's a division. There's the shtar kids and there's the non-shtar kids. And I just changed their perspective and said, there's the shtar kids and the other shtar kids. So you have the guy who's learning a whole day, but you have the other guy that davened one part of Shemoneh Esrei with Kavanah today. That's shtar to me. Or he learned in a Seder that he doesn't usually learn a little bit. That's shtar to me. And that life isn't black and white, and that it's a series, it's not all or nothing. And all of a sudden, the craziest thing happened. My class was 40 minutes. A half hour later, everyone's still sitting and schmoozing and talking about things in life that matter. And my goal with this class is just to build a pneumius. And each week we talk about something else. Last week a kid asked, could we talk about Olam Haba? And I'm like, Baruch Hashem, I was never there, but I could share with you what I know. The closest I ever got is Shabbos, Me'ein Olam Haba, Ma Neshama Yisera. Shabbos, we talk about Shabbos. You think any kids in 12th grade know what Shmir Shabbos really means? There's a lot of don'ts. You know how many kids never heard of the word Neshama Yisera? You know how many kids never heard of the word Neshama? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm saying this and it's cynical and it's true, but it's not cynicism. The most precious thing that we have is a chelik alakami mal. How many people think about that? How often do we talk to our children about it? I've been speaking a lot for high schools over the last bunch of years. I love telling them when you turn around for Boi Chala, the Ben Ish Chai writes and the Arizal, you get your first dose of Neshama Yisera. Whether you do it by your couch, in your living room, or in shul. Imagine if every little kid who was 14, 15, 10, or 11, or 12, by Boi Chala would take a minute and say, Hashem is giving me an extra added dose of Him for the next 26 hours. It's really powerful. You know how I know it's powerful? Because I started doing it, and it transforms my Shabbos. You know how powerful it is? I share this with my class. I'm telling you it's transformational. I said, before you take 3 steps back to Shemoneh Esrei, take 3 seconds and think to yourself, I'm about to talk to the only being in creation that could actually make things happen in a real way. And I know I don't deserve it, but He wants to hear what I have to say. 3 seconds. It transforms your Shemoneh Esrei. Once a day. It transforms your Shemoneh Esrei. But no one's talking to their children about this at all. They're just penalizing them. How come you came late to Shachris? Why wouldn't I come late to Shachris? I hate davening. I don't even know what I'm doing. No one ever told me I should talk to Hashem. So if we can't create a pneumius, and ladies and gentlemen, I'll conclude with this because they told me I have to finish. If we can't create resiliency in the children who Baruch Hashem are what we would call mainstream, then when we get the biggest nisayon we've ever had in our life, and a child that's home, who's not being Shomer Shabbos, who's using terrible words, who has no derech eretz, but has the iPhone, and has the car, and has the vacation, why would our children want to be any different? So sometimes we have perceptive ones that realize it's all a sham and it's artificial. But not every child's like that. So we need to build in the rest of our children such a resiliency, emotional, ruchnius, that whatever that person has doesn't rate. We all know that even children understand what's real and genuine and meaningful versus what's just a knockoff. And if somehow we're able to create a space in each child where they cherish the relationship with us, and there's nothing that's stronger than that, and they cherish their relationship with the Rabbi Shalom, and there's nothing stronger than that, and they cherish their relationship with another Yiddish person, which I didn't even get to talking about that. By the way, one of the most powerful things we could do for our children is get them involved in chesed. It's an automatic win. It feels so amazing. And I'll conclude with a mashal I use thousands of times. I wish I could share like everything else. We only have like 1 minute left. I always tell the students like this, or the children, like, imagine for a moment that you have a terrible basement and it's cluttered beyond. And your mother comes to you and she says to you, Shefla, I can't even get into that basement and I don't have the time or the energy. You're such a good organizer. That's your strength. And you know it is. Can you clean the basement? I know Sunday morning you have nothing on the schedule. It'll take you 2.5 hours and you can work your magic. I'm asking you for a favor. The whole mishpacha will be enriched by it. I'm not saying this is the right way to ask. I'm just saying you do that. And there's a hesitancy. You know what? I'll sweeten the deal. You know that new ice cream coffee shop that just opened down the block? I heard that they have like $11 Frappuccino. It has 2,500 calories and lactose intolerancy and all kinds of great stuff. But if you clean the basement, I'll buy you one of those. I'll give you the money, you can go there and buy it. All right, Mom, now you're talking my language. I wanted one of those Frappuccinos. By the way, this is just my own little thing. Okay, I'm finishing. I think that the Eitz Hadas was actually iced coffees. Let's go weiter. So she cleans it. 2.5 hours later, it's beautiful. She comes out and she walks to the Frappuccino store. And she's about to put her hand on the door to open it when she hears a conversation. It's a mother and a child. And the child says, Mom, can I buy ice cream? Just the ice cream cone. The mother says, ever since Daddy left us, it's been so hard. We just need the money for rent and for everything else. I'm sorry, Shefla, but Ma, I haven't had ice cream in like a year. I know. One day I'm going to buy you a whole container. But for now, I can't. And all of a sudden you're thinking, you're like, whoa, I have $11 in my pocket. So you walk over to my child, they're like, can you wait 1 second? You turn to the child, what kind of ice cream do you like? He goes, vanilla with sprinkles. And they think to the mother, if the child hasn't had ice cream in a half a year, when was the last time the mother had? What do you like? Of course, coffee. Could you wait here for 60 seconds? I'm telling you I'm going to make it worth your while. Okay. You run into the store. You say, this is an emergency. It's pikuach nefesh. I need a cone with sprinkles and vanilla. I need a coffee one. And you bring it outside. You give the child, and you give the mother. And the child says, is that Hashem? No, but it's his child. And you give them the ice cream. And you walk around and you walk back and you saunter home and you never had the ice cream. And you come home and your wife and your mother says, Shefla, how was the Frappuccino? As good as the Eitz Hadas? I didn't have it. Why? You say the story. I want to ask you a simple question. Do you think the child had more hana not eating it, or eating it? It's pashut. Because when they eat the Frappuccino, the lactose intolerance sets in halfway through, the sugar rush starts killing you, etc., etc. You walk out of the store feeling worse than when you came in. But when you gave to somebody else, you keep coming back to that. This is a primitive example of what teaching a child giving, of what teaching them ruchnius, of what giving them love does. It trains a child to appreciate. That builds resiliency. My most profound and deepest bracha is that each and every one of us should be able to create that resiliency in the rest of our mashpacha, in the other 80%, 70%. And that we should have infinite nachas from all of our children. I feel that the word kesher nafshi is prophetic because kesher nafshi is supposed to be about you and your child. That's what it was crafted for. I feel after 36 hours that I feel a kesher nafshi with every single person of the 900 people that were here this Shabbos. Because we're all on a special journey. We all appreciate so many things in life that maybe we never appreciated before. And we all daven our hearts out for our children. Hashem should just listen to those prayers. He should listen to those tefillas. And the kesher nafshi that we feel should continue to endure amidst Hashem. And it should give nachas to each and every one of us beyond our most wildest dreams. Thank you for listening. Hatzlacha, Rabbi.